Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that's shaping your entire online world: customer segmentation. It's the secret sauce behind how companies seem to know exactly what you're looking for, sometimes even before you do.
You ever do this? You pull up a streaming service next to a friend, and your home pages look like they're from different planets. They get the dark, gritty crime dramas, and you get the cheerful, quirky baking shows. That's not random. Oh no, that is a very, very calculated strategy at work.
And that strategy is called market segmentation. At its core, it's pretty simple. It's about taking this giant, messy blob of a market and slicing it into smaller, meaningful groups. The whole point is to find people who share similar needs or interests so you can talk to them instead of just shouting at everyone.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about the big idea that all customers aren't the same. Then we'll look at the 4 classic ways marketers used to group us. After that, we dive into how AI completely changed the game. We'll peek under the hood of an algorithm called K-means, and then we'll see how all that data actually turns into the ads you see every day.
All right, let's jump right in. The entire world of modern marketing really rests on this one simple but totally powerful idea. Not all customers are created equal. And you can really see it in this timeline. For a long, long time, it was all about mass marketing. You know, think of the Ford Model T. You could have any color you wanted as long as it was black. One product for everybody. But then, companies started realizing, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we need different things for different people. And boom, segmentation was born. And now we're in the era of hyper-segmentation, where they can market to tiny little groups, or maybe just to you.
So you got to wonder, before we had all this data and fancy AI, how did they even do this? Well, they relied on 4 classic ways to slice up the market. These were the absolute workhorses of marketing for decades. You've got demographic, which is the easy stuff, right? Age, income, things like that. Geographic, which is just where you live. Then it gets a little more interesting with psychographic, which tries to figure out your lifestyle and values. And finally, behavioral, which looks at what you actually do, what you buy, how often, and if you keep coming back. But here's the problem. These old methods had some serious limits. They just weren't sharp enough. I mean, knowing someone is, say, 35 and lives in a city is okay, but it doesn't tell you why they buy what they buy. The old way was just too blurry, too broad to give you that truly personal feeling.
And this is where the story gets really good. Those limitations of the old school methods, they basically kicked the door wide open for a brand new approach, finding patterns with AI.
And the key technology here is something called clustering. Now, the magic word is unsupervised machine learning. And that's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. It means you can just hand the computer a giant, chaotic pile of data and say, you figure it out. And it does. It finds all the natural hidden groups all by itself.
This is the basic idea. Imagine you start with just a jumbled mess of raw data, right? All the hearts, stars, and diamonds are totally mixed up. Well, the clustering algorithm goes in, finds what they have in common, and automatically sorts them into these neat, perfectly organized groups.
Now, there are a bunch of different ways to do clustering, but one of the most famous, one of the most fundamental algorithms out there is called K-means. So, let's pop the hood. Let's see how this thing actually works. Okay, we're going to get a little technical for just a minute, but I promise it's actually pretty intuitive once you see it in action. Let's go inside the K-means algorithm. The best way to think about it is like a game of magnets. First, you decide how many groups, or K, you want to find. The algorithm then drops K random magnets, they're called centroids, onto your map of data. Immediately, every single data point gets sucked toward whichever magnet is closest. Then the algorithm finds the new center of each group and moves the magnet there. And it just keeps repeating that process. Suck in the points, move the magnet. Suck in the points, move the magnet. Over and over until the groups are stable and the magnets don't move anymore.
So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? That K number, it's not magic. A person has to pick it. So how in the world do you know if you should be looking for 3 clusters, or 5, or 50? How do you pick the right number?
Well, data scientists have a couple of clever tricks. On the left, you see the elbow method. You're basically looking for that bend in the graph. It's the point where adding more clusters doesn't really help you much anymore. On the right is the silhouette score. That just measures how tight and well-defined the groups are. You just look for the highest score. And in this case, look at that. Both methods are pointing right at 5 as the best number of clusters.
All right, we've talked about the what and the how. Now for the most important part, the why. This is the payoff. This is where we connect these abstract data clusters to the real-world campaigns that try to get you to buy stuff.
And this is what it looks like when it's all done. So a real study used K-means on a shopping mall's data, looking at people's income versus their spending score. The algorithm took this messy cloud of shoppers and, bam, it found these 5 distinct, understandable groups. A perfect map of who their customers are.
And once you have these clusters, you can start telling stories. The yellow group, those are your ideal targets. High income, high spending. They're your VIPs. But then, look at that blue group. High income, but they're not spending much. Now that is an interesting puzzle. Why aren't they spending? Are they unhappy? Do they just need a little nudge? That group is pure potential.
And then you find the really surprising stuff. Take the violet group here. They have low income but a high spending score. How is that even possible? Well, the study suggests that maybe these customers are just so thrilled with the mall's service that they're happy to spend a big chunk of their money there. Now that is an insight you would never get just from looking at demographics.
And this is where it all comes together. Now you have a playbook. Every segment gets its own custom strategy. For the new shoppers, you send a welcome discount. For the customers who used to spend a lot but haven't come back, you send a special "We Miss You" offer. And for your best, most loyal customers, you give them VIP rewards and exclusive access. It's not one size fits all anymore. It's the right message for the right person at exactly the right time.
And this whole trend is just getting faster and faster. The end goal here isn't just small groups. The real holy grail is hyper-segmentation. Basically, marketing to an audience of one. A world where every single customer gets an experience that is perfectly, and I mean perfectly, tailored just for them.
But, and it's a huge but, as this technology gets more and more powerful, it forces us to ask some really tough ethical questions. The very same people who are excited about how well this works are also pointing out the serious moral issues around our data, our privacy, and whether we've actually consented to all this.
Which leaves us with the one big final question that we all have to grapple with. Look, we all like it when things are personalized and easy, but all of that is fueled by our personal data. As businesses learn more about us than ever before, we have to ask ourselves, how do we find the right balance between helpful personalization and our fundamental right to privacy? That conversation right there is going to define the next chapter of our digital lives. Thanks for joining The Explainer.